Hi, I'm Alisa Lamal, Legal Content Specialist at Krause Financial Services. Today, I'm joined by attorney Julieanne Steinbacher, president of the Million Dollar Solution and the founding shareholder of Steinbacher, Goodall Yurchak, located in Pennsylvania. Julie is a certified elder law attorney and holds an LLM degree in elder law and estate planning. As part of her personal mission and one of the core initiatives of the Million Dollar Solution, Julie provides coaching for attorneys on developing a dementia-focused practice. Julie will be offering her insight today on the devastating effect a lack of planning for long-term care can have on clients and how to help bridge the gap between legal services and the aging network. Julie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Okay, so I'm sure one of the first questions that you often get asked is, what is the difference between estate planning for a client who has dementia or Alzheimer's and another 70-year-old healthy couple?
Yeah, so, the base part of it, it's the same. It's really important that everybody has good documents, powers of attorneys, looking at what happens if they get sick, how do we pay for care, doing trust work. But I think for the person who has the diagnosis, one, we want to push a little bit farther to get people to start understanding what that journey is going to look like and what questions they need to be answering. So it's not okay for somebody to have a dementia diagnosis and us just kind of go along as normal and like kind of like a pre-plan wills, powers of attorneys, and trust. We want to say, where would you want to receive care? What happens if you have to leave your home? What happens when? What does the funeral look like? So I think for me, the legal documents aren't all that different, but having that realistic talk about what this journey, what's ahead, and what can we do today to get a plan in place to get ready for that? It's important.
So, what about a client who maybe hasn't received that diagnosis yet? If they're meeting with you for the first time, are there any telltale signs that kind of signal to you that they might be experiencing some sort of cognitive impairment?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people just think of like, memory problems, and that could be me. What's the date, those types of things. But really, two others that are really important. One is a level of frustration. So the client acts frustrated at you. We even have this on review clients where they call in and my staff will be like, they were kind of mean. Just understand that, they may be dealing with some deficits, and the way that comes out is they don't want you to know, they don't want this happening, and so they're frustrated. The second is, just looking for a word. So, talking to them, and maybe they can't remember the word grandchild, for instance. That's a sign that when people are looking for words that there could be the beginnings of some cognitive impairment. And so we always want to watch out for that too.
So, what about when somebody has been diagnosed then? Can they still sign legal documents and do estate planning, or does that fall into the POA now?
Yeah, no, just because somebody's been diagnosed does not mean that they can't sign legal documents. The law looks at whether or not the person has the capacity to understand at that moment when they're signing it. And there's different levels of capacity that are needed for different legal documents, a will versus a power of attorney. But generally, at my office, many people who have a diagnosis of dementia would be signing legal documents. In fact, we'd want to do it before their capacity decreases at all. We want to make sure that they get these things in place.
So, what are some of the ways that they can pre plan for their care then? Can they do funeral arrangements or anything like that?
Yeah, so we want people to, be as much a part of what happens as they possibly can. So we want to push to say, what would the funeral look like? Not just maybe going and prepaying it, but really, what are the songs? What would the experience be like? But also, in care, so many times we interact with people, spouse is caring for their husband maybe or their wife, and the goal right now is just mom or spouse is going to care for them as long as possible. We want to push beyond that and say, well, what happens if spouse gets in a car accident or has to have their own surgery? Where would we want to get care? So we want to start exploring the options of in-home care, adult day care, memory units. What's the difference between a memory unit that's based in more personal care or assisted living versus a memory care that's situated in a nursing home? And I think it's good for people to see that there's different options and, decide where is it that they would want to go if and when that happens.
So you touched on this earlier regarding capacity and them being involved in their care. Are there different options for a client who comes to you early on in their diagnosis versus waiting till they're in a nursing facility and asking for help?
Yeah, absolutely. So pre-planning, they can able, depending on the state, but in every state there's something that we can do. But a lot of times we want to look into gifting to children, gifting through a trust. But all that pre-planning stuff. But we also want to know that, even it's, I think it's such a disservice that still so many times people are admitted to a nursing home. They think there's nothing they can do. We can do crisis planning. We can use annuities. We can, work with the ability to protect a spouse, to protect their assets in case they get better, and maybe they can go to a memory care unit that's not part of a nursing home. So absolutely, it's a better outcome if they plan ahead, but it's an okay outcome even in a crisis.
So what about training or resources for an attorney who's working with more dementia patients or Alzheimer's clients? Where can they start looking for resources to make this a better experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the president of the $1 Million Solution. And a few years ago, we really, with gusto, went into we as attorneys can make this journey better, and we need to make this journey better. So you can go to the $1 million lawyer.com. You also can go to dementia-focusedpractice.com. And we have all kinds of resources for that attorney who wants to get started. We have a course that they can go through that's recorded that kind of goes over the basics of it. Actually, right now, I'm about to go to one of our immersion summits where we bring a small group of attorneys together and really talk about what does this look like in their practice? How can they do this? And the wonderful thing about it is that you're helping people and making more money. So it's so congruent of being able to increase your per client revenue, but also really not wait for so many attorneys that have been through this, they already are providing some of this help. And that's the way my law office was, but it's reactionary. Somebody calls in and we're like, oh yeah, you should do this. Where this switches it to prospective and, plan for this, do this. This is the next step. And so, yeah, there's quite a bit. We've had some conferences, quite a bit that would help any attorney who's thinking about doing this or really wants to plunge in and figure out how to do it.
Are there any sort of small changes or little deviances you can make with your office to make it easier for clients with dementia?
Yeah, it's so important. So one of the things that we want to do, well, at some of our conferences, we've talked about this for like an hour, but it's really important that everything is not busy. So in our office, we've made things, plainer. The idea is not to overwhelm that person. We also do make sure that we have signs posted for a bathroom, conference room. So we want people not to feel overwhelmed or confused in any way. And we're very intentional at my office, and I think everybody should be, to make that experience better. But the biggest thing is don't have so much stuff laying out up on your walls. Make it calmer, because they're distracted by it and they're trying to understand everything that they're seeing because they're not in, a typical environment for them.
Understandable. So would something like a coffee table with books on top, is that something that could be clutter?
Yeah, that is clutter, really. So we want to remove that. Many people don't have the magazines out anymore, but we don't want that. Sometimes we have. So we keep any of those marketing materials kind of up on a bookshelf, but not out in the table where they think that they need to see them.
Gotcha. So, what about any attorneys that would love to connect with you, want to learn more about the $1 million solution and get involved in this? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, so they can email at info@dementiafocusedpractice.com, and they connect with us that way. They also can email me directly at J Steinbacher, so that's J Steinbacher at PA, as in Pennsylvania, elder, as an older person, counsel, COUNSEL.com. So that's PAeldercounsel.com. And so the full email would be jsteinbacher at PAeldercounsel.com.
Perfect. Okay, so we are going to link your contact information at the end of our video for any of our viewers who would love to reach out to you, learn more about the $1 million solution, how to make their office more dementia or Alzheimer client friendly. For more information about helping your clients plan ahead for their long-term care needs, head to the education tab on our website or contact our office to speak with one of our benefit planners today. Thank you so much for joining us today, Julie.
Thanks.